So I've been asked, how do you take something from GitHub and make it actually, act in Canvas? And this is a pretty good repository to use as an example because it's midway between how I used to do things and how I'm starting to do things. So it requires us to do both of those. I'll explain when we get there. Um, so I'm going to work our way through it, hopefully in a single take that will just be beautiful and elegant, like something out of Citizen Kane. So the first thing I need to do is I'm on the GitHub website and I need to be logged in. So you create your own free GitHub account. You don't have to have anything in it, you just have to be logged in. But that then means that the clone in desktop button down here will actually work for you. Um, it's important to do that rather than download the zip file because this repository and a lot of mine are nested repositories of repositories. I've decided that this is a difficult way to live one's life. It creates a lot of tricky things to manage. So I'm shifting away from it. But this repository is using some of the old way and some of the new way. So I need to click clone in desktop, which means I have to have a desktop Git client. The obvious choice would be to use the GitHub Git client. They have Mac and Windows versions. I kind of hate them. I find them unreliable and hard to work with. They're not very configurable. They're kind of like just enough to let you push and pull commits without actually being able to do anything powerful. I infinitely prefer SourceTree, which gives you a lot more control, a lot more configurability. It is, however, as you can see, a lot more technical. So we'll do this with GitHub, which is pretty and simple. So I'm going to go in and clone this in the desktop. It's going to ask me about launching this external protocol. I'm going to say, yes, of course you may. And it's going to open up the GitHub client, coming in off from the wings. And I'm going to name this templates and then put it on my desktop. It's going to clone it down. You'll see this, it takes a little moment as it clones everything down. It's calling it the name of the repository in GitHub right there, but if we look at my desktop, I have a folder called templates, just like I named it. That's great. If we look in templates, it's got a lot of stuff in it. It's almost everything, but no, there's more. Because, back to the wings, guys, I'm midway through changing this over, and I'm also using something called Composer to manage my dependencies in PHP. It's great. I love it. It's where I'm probably going to use it hardcore for 18 months until I decide there's something better. That's just how it is. They have a great getting started tutorial that explains how to get it installed, and you need to have it installed before you do the next step, which is easy. You just have to open up a terminal window. Whoops, that one. Let's get a clean terminal window so I don't blow my reveal here. And I know nothing easy ever starts with open the terminal, but we're going to open the terminal and we're going to go to the directory we're in right here. And to do that, in the terminal, I'm going to type cd for change directory, space. And I'm just going to drag the folder that I want to go to onto the terminal window. This works in every Mac terminal client that I've come across. I'm going to hit return. And now I'm actually operating inside that directory. And I'm going to type the magic phrase composer install. And that will have Composer go out and manage my dependencies for me. You'll see it create a little vendor folder there full of a few other things that are useful. The way those things got in there is there's actually a composer.json file that is defining what should actually be loaded, and the lock file lets you have exactly the same versions of all those things as what I had. So at this point, we're done with the terminal. We're going to send it off to the wings again. And I've got all of my source code, but I do need to edit some stuff. So I'm going to bring up my actual real text editor right here, which is, let me close all this stuff so you don't have to see it. I use Coda to do most of my development. I find it to be kind of lovely and pretty and just barely enough to do what I need. And in this, there is a file called templates authentication inc. I'm going to go in and edit it to be full of the secret words that we need to make this work. The first thing I need is a valid API token. So I go to my web browser, and on my Canvas instance, I'm on our test instance right here. I'm going to go into my account settings, and down here at the bottom, I'm going to say, hey, I want a new access token. As for my GitHub demo, I'm going to set it to expire tomorrow because I don't really need it to stay around. Generally, I just leave that blank because I want my tokens to stay around. I'm going to generate my token. And in this moment, it's really important to copy that token because you'll never see it again. You'll have to regenerate it rather than get that same one back. And then I'm going to take that token and in Coda, I'm going to plug in my valid Canvas API access token right there where it says that. I'm going to make sure I'm pointed at my actual instance right here. And then, oh goodness, I need to have a MySQL database set up somewhere. So I need to set up my authentication. So I'm going with some really heavy duty security right here. So that's my for this demo, this database. In my SQL client of choice, I'm using SQL Pro with, you'll note, a fun pun in the name. In that database, I need to import my template schema out of that folder. Yeah, I don't know if you guys, this is just such a fun trick that I love to share it every time. If I'm not looking at the right folder, I can actually just say, hey, drag template schema onto the open dialog. Bang, it puts me right there. Open it up, click and whir. I now have a little cache table. This is to cache the templates menu. We need the SQL database to hold that cache between users and whatnot. So it's all good. Don't worry about it. You don't have any terribly personal data in there. We can come back and look at what gets stored in there later if you're really worried. So I now have that edited. There is another thing that I need to edit here. Is either I need to rename that file or I need to go into my config file and make sure that when I include this, I am including the actual file name. This .ignore is something I use when I'm working in my repositories. I tell Git to ignore all the files that start with .ignore, so it doesn't actually commit my passwords to the great cloud repository. So, but I want to include that there. So I'm going to edit that to include the file I just edited, and I am going to now. I think I'm done editing all those files. Isn't that awesome? So I'm going to go over here, going to send that off to the wings, and I'm going to bring in now my favorite file transfer tool. I happen to be using Transmit right here. In real life, I'd probably just use Coda for this as well, but whatever. I'm just gonna. So I've got this open to my LAMP server. That's Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP, and the Apache, MySQL, and PHP are all necessary to make this one work. And I'm going to just take my templates folder here. I'm going to plunk it in there. And it's going to click and whir right here. It's going to upload them all there. And I now have a templates directory at the root of my web server. If I was feeling really daring, I can actually go up here and say, hey, Area 51. What about templates? And it's going to give me a little directory listing of it. Oh, look, it's all there. That's a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's actually worth going there because what I really need next, the next step here, is I need the URL for my global.js file. So I'm going to copy that link address and go into my St. Mark's School, my account settings in here. So under settings, there it is. This is going to be interesting because it's actually going to remove features when I do this, but because I'm using my real settings document. So I'm going to go down here on settings and I'm going to change my global JavaScript URL to that. And the word to the wise, you need to have HTTPS authentication set up to make this really work. I have not really got that set up on my Area 51 server, but I have told my browser to trust things coming from Area 51 anyway. You would like to have a secure communication for this in general. So I'm going to do that. I just put that URL in there. It's going to load that global JavaScript. I'm going to update my settings. And I come in and I have an almost naked canvas install. I barely know what to do with myself. But if I now go into a course, it should load that templates right there. Why is it not loading? Let's see what the problem is. What have I forgotten? Enjoying our single take. We're far enough in that I'm not going to restart this. We're going to find out what's broken. Ba, 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 ba. I got an internal server error loading that. That doesn't seem like the kind of thing that should generate internal server error. Templates, PHP, user ID. Yeah, copy that link address and try opening it up in a new tab and see what happens when I actually go there. Nothing good. I wonder what's broken. In theory, at this point, it should be working. All right. I'm going to bring up the terminal here. I promise we wouldn't go back there, but now I'm curious. Oh. You get to go on a journey of discovery with me. Logs, Apache, error. Tell me about what broke. Gain require once on failed to OpenStream no such file or directory in. It's telling me our authentication file is not loading. Let's see what the problem is. Templates authentication, templates dash authentication inc, templates dash. I'm just going to paste this in from right there as the file is trying to include. Why is it not working? It should be right there. The file is named that. I want to, in config.php, I want to include that file. Interested. Well, we will re-upload those two files and see if I made any meaningful changes. Yes, I want to replace those files. And then I'm going to reload that page. Ah, now it's working. Something must have been misnamed. I didn't see what it was, but that was the problem. It wasn't loading the authentication. So now if I go back here, I should be in happy, joy. Oh, look at that. I now have my little templating set up right here. I can go build templates, which is a whole other conversation. So there you go. A walkthrough of how to get this from GitHub to your server, back to Canvas, and a little debugging along the way. So who doesn't love that? Enjoy!